Welcome everyone, it's Shari Carroll for SimonsStamp.com, and I am creating a tag book so I can have loose pages to play with techniques like sewing and embossing folders. I've die cut several tags out of the Ranger watercolor cardstock since these are 6 inches in height, and I'm also using the Simon Says Stamp O-clip to hold everything together. I cut these to where I'll be using the smooth side, and I'm using the Tim Holtz frame tag dies so that I'll be able to cut additional tags as I go along building my book. I'll be using the new Lost Shadow in Oxide and regular spray stain along with iced spruce oxide, walnut stain, and hickory smoke. To get this started, I'll spritz it a little bit with some water, and I'm starting off with the Lost Shadow first since it's the lightest color, and I'll just randomly spray it around the edges and some in the center. The next color I'm adding is hickory smoke to add a little darker gray. Then I'll spritz with a little more water to get these to blend. I've allowed my grays to dry, and next I've used some walnut stain and again adding some water to get this to move around. I can pick this up and get some of those drips and stains to move as they dry. And next I'm adding in some short sprays of Oxide Lost Shadow. And once my tag was dry, I'm dipping into the Oxide Ice Spruced and adding dabs of color. And now I have a nice mottled background of grays and browns ready for the embossing folder. Next, I'll slide my tag into the left and I'll run this through my die cut machine. And now I have a fantastic mosaic texture. To give my tag a little more stability, I'll be gluing this to an additional tag, and this will also hide any ink that I might have on the back side. Next, I'm using the beautiful Tim Holtz Blossom die. It's a really nice large flower and also a leaf set. So there are 3 main pieces to the blossom, and I've cut out the back piece using soft navy from Simon Says Stamp, and then the other 2 pieces in the Ranger watercolor cardstock. I'm using the grip mat, and I'm also putting down some chipped sapphire ink and spraying that with a little water, dabbing my fingers through, and now I can blot the die cut piece right into the ink. And continue adding color until you're happy with that one. The next color is Prize Ribbon. This is a little bit bluer color. Again, I'm spritzing this with some water and then I'll dip again. You can see the difference between the chipped sapphire being a little more purple and the Prize Ribbon being a little bluer. Once my flower was dry, I went back in with a blending brush and some more of the Prize Ribbon just to fill in some of the white areas. I'm using some of the walnut stain distress spray, and I've just put some onto my grip mat. Next, I'll be using a paintbrush and some water and grabbing some of the mixture and splattering this onto the flower. For the next layer of the flower, I'm adding some walnut stain by ink blending just in the center area. And to color this, I'll be using Stormy Sky for a lighter blue. So again, I'll spritz that with water, move my fingers through it, and start dipping my flower into the ink. I'm back at the first flower piece, and now I'm adding a little bit of walnut stain to the center. And now I'll be gluing these pieces together. I've used Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue, and I've added it all to the back of this flower piece, and I want to make sure that I line this up really well. You can see in the center when you have it lined up, and then you can just press this down. I like to use a paper towel just to push down on it and make sure that I have everything lined up. And now that those layers are glued together, I'm adding some more Simon Says Stamp Craft Tacky Glue. And I'm just going to spread this around a little bit with my fingers so I don't have too much oozing out. And now I can add this to the base piece. For the leaves, I've used peeled paint and forest moss, and I've ink blended those onto those papers. Next, I want to add a little bit of walnut stain just to give it more of a vintage look. And I've just used a little bit, spritzed it with water, and rubbed it with my finger. And I can dip these leaf pieces right in just to get a color variation. And next, I'm using just a little bit of walnut stain around the outside of the flower to blend it with the center and to fade down some of those white areas. And with my paintbrush I didn't clean, I'm adding a little bit of water and some splatters to both the flower and the leaves. And next, for the flower center, I'm adding a little bit of walnut stain to the top piece to go along with the dark chocolate die cut piece that it'll sit on top of. And next I'll be gluing the top piece of the leaf together onto the base. And now for my title, I'm making this Love Wins, and I've put these onto some white cardstock, and I'm going to be using the negative and some of the positive for my title. I've cut the love portion into a strip, and I'm using some glue on the back side and placing it to the upper right of my tag. And then using the individual letters for wins just underneath the tag, and I have a little bit of glue on my grip mat, and I'm using my tweezers just to set these letters down in place. With the titles in place, I can snip off the excess. I've die cut the reinforcer with some dark chocolate cardstock, and now my tag is ready for some stitching around the edges. With everything stitched, I'm ready to add my pieces onto the front. So with some Simmons' Stamp Craft Tacky Glue, I'm going to add the leaf first and position that to the upper left. And then I can add my flower using a little bit of dimension with the Simmons' Stamp Foam Tape Roll. And with my first tag complete, I can add it to the O-clip, and I'm ready to make some more. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I'm really looking forward to making more pages where I can have some freedoms with the loose tags by doing some sewing, embossing folders, and techniques. I do have all my supplies listed in the description box below, and as always, thanks so much for watching.
Hi there, I'm Heidi, Simon's mama and founder at SimonsSaysStamp.com. Thank you so much for watching our video. If you like what you just saw, be sure to press the thumbs up and subscribe to see more great content.